This
just for the
conference will now be recorded.
just for the new person, new members who have joined, right? So just a brief introduction about myself. Myself, Rahul. I have almost near to 10 plus of years of IT experience and predominantly into cloud era. Okay, and I've been a certified cloud solution architect at professional level and as well as at DevOps level as well. So I'm certified in both the areas. And along with that, coming to the teaching side of EWS, like I have almost near to 5 years of teaching experience, teaching students with new technical services, whatever comes as an updated, because AWS is running at a very fast pace where we need to cope up with those newly created services, right? So that's how I've been teaching both offline and online classes as well, but I prefer online because it gives flexibility to every one of us, right? So, just for a kind of introduction, and for the older students, right? So, what I'll do is I'll even cover some new topics, okay, just to make sure the new students feel comfortable about what they are trying to learn, okay. So just bear with me for 20 to 25 minutes. I'll start even the new topic as well, okay, just to make sure you're aware of the new topics, okay. So coming to you know the introduction of what exactly this cloud computing is, and just for your information, never or ever treat cloud computing as a technology, okay. It's not technology, okay. Cloud computing is a sort of model, okay. So basing on that model, different technical vendors like AWS or Azure or GCP have derived, okay. So cloud computing is not a technology, it's a model. Now I'm not saying that particular definition, okay. It is an organization in US, okay, called NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology in US, which is a non-profit organization, okay. So that particular non-profit organization has defined the cloud computing definition, and it's not only about cloud computing, okay. So whatever new technical areas, especially where it can impact in a positive way to humans, okay. So NIST comes in picture where everyone should oblige NIST standards and definitions and process, and it is not so easy with NIST, okay, to get a sort of approvals. They have their own stringent process to evaluate any sort of area of specific technology and give it its relevant shape, right? So that's how NIST is all about, okay. And NIST has also defined what cloud computing is all about, okay. Now we'll try to give you, we'll see like what cloud computing is, okay, what are its advantages, and then we'll look into few of the models, okay. So let's get started. So as I've told you earlier, NIST is an organization which has defined cloud computing, and this is a standard definition. Okay, now the way, if at all someone asks you what is cloud computing, everyone have their own set of expression, right? So basing on their understanding, how well they understanding what cloud computing is, everyone can have their own definitions. But this is a standard definition which every organization follows actually whenever they want to tell what cloud computing is, but it is not mandatory for you to to give word to word, okay. So how you understand is what you can express, okay. So what NIST has defined as cloud computing is a model. Now when you're talking about model, right, so you expect something in that model, right? So without building A house, you can't say like it's a house, right? You are going to build a model. Basing on that model, you will build up your building, right? So similarly, if you want to build up a cloud computing, so you have a model. Okay, so that particular model consists of, so what does that particular model consists of? It consists of shared pool of configurable computing resources. When I'm saying shared pool, right, so you can share it across. Okay, so you, me, or maybe anyone, let's say you have 10 users, right? So 10 users can create their own AWS accounts, and they can able to create their own resources like VM machines or databases or maybe security policies, right? So they can create their own individual accounts and use their own individual purposes for their own individual purposes, right? Now why this is coming as a shared is, I can use virtual machine, you can use virtual machine. When I'm saying I and you have your own independent virtual machine, I have my own independent virtual machine, right? Now from AWS standpoint, infrastructure is one and the same. Okay, it's only that your accounts are different and you have your we have our own independent machines. Okay, so similarly, if you see from AWS standpoint, AWS is sharing its resources. Okay, so it is sharing its VMs, it is sharing its databases, right? It is sharing its security policies, right? So that's how you need to consider shared pool. Okay, so now, what does that shared pool consist of? It consists of computing resources. When I'm saying configurable computing resources, in the sense, configure is nothing but you can configure how much RAM you want, how much storage you want, right? Or how much you know what else I can say? How much security you want for that particular resource is what you can configure. I'm just giving a very layman example, but it is not limited to that, it is more than that. But just to make sure you understand, I'm just making sure I give a common terminologies. Okay, now that is what configurable means. Now what is that configurable computing resources? So when I'm saying computing resources, it consists of your storage, it consists of your networks, it consists of your servers, right? And also it consists of your security measurements, okay, your cost measurements, right? So everything is been acting as a resource for you, right? Now if you club this meaning, right, technically this is what cloud computing is all about. Okay, so cloud computing is a model in which what happens in that model, you get a shared pool of configurable resources. Okay, so getting shared pool of configurable resources will have lot of benefits. Okay, so for example, it can save you cost, right? It can save you from security threats, right? And it can even save you from if you wanted more of a capacity, you can do it. If you want less of capacity after maybe, let's say you have Pongal, okay, or maybe you have a big festival, maybe Christmas, right? So users want to buy lot of goods from Amazon.com. So at that point of time, Amazon will scale up its infrastructure. Now after Christmas, users will not buy much of the things, right? So when users are not buying much of the things, having a larger infrastructure is a cost burden, right? So after Christmas Eve, your infrastructure will be scaled down slowly, but not all of a sudden. Slowly, slowly, they will scale down, and all of a sudden they wanted to increase, they can increase. But while they want to decrease the infrastructure, they'll do it on a slow manner basis. Okay, so that it doesn't impact the performance of Amazon.com site. Okay, so if you combine in that meaningful way, cloud computing is a model. Now along with this model, okay, there are few other areas where you need to have some glance on. Okay, now what are those other few areas? In this cloud computing model, you have 5 essential characteristics. Now what are those? I'll tell you. Okay, but for time being, just understand you have 5 essential characteristics. Okay, now you have three service models and 4 deployment models. Okay, now these could be little new. Okay, but just bear with me. I'll showcase you again what are these characteristics, what are these service models and deployment models. But for time being, just understand along with this uh, model, it also comprises of characteristics, which are 5 essential characteristics. Okay, and along with that, you have 3 service models. Okay, and you have 4 deployment models. Now it is common. Okay, so these essential characteristics, service models and deployment models are common across all the cloud vendors. Okay, I'm not only talking about AWS. It could be a Microsoft Azure, it could be Google Cloud Platform, it could be Oracle Cloud, or it could be many. Okay, so all the cloud vendors, whoever they project themselves as cloud vendors. Okay, they will follow all this. It is not only sticking to one cloud vendor. It is for everything. Okay, for every cloud vendor, all this will be followed. Okay, now I hope you have understood what is cloud computing. I'll give a pause here. Okay, for a minute. If you have any questions on this definition, you can shoot out your queries, just in case if you wanted more clarity. Okay, I'll take that silence as no, and let's proceed further. Okay, now, as I've told you, they are essential characteristics, right? Now, what are those essential characteristics? So these are the essential characteristics which I haven't designed. Okay, it is again NIST. Okay, so NIST has defined essential characteristics, service models, and deployment models. It is not you, me, or some company have defined it. Okay, so it is this organization which has defined it. Okay, now the essential characteristics are 5. Okay, so the very first essential characteristics is on-demand self-service. So what I'll try to do here is I'll try to make sure you understand with a real-time example, a common real-time example, not technical. Okay, it's very common example on a daily usage. Okay, now when you're talking about the first characteristic called on-demand self-service. Okay, let's say you go to a hotel. Okay, and you sit in that hotel and you wait for the waiter to come in, right? So the waiter comes up and you'll ask the very first question, what items are there? Okay, so that waiter would be giving up a list of all the items whatever are available, okay, in their hotel, right? Now you would be choosing out of those X items, you will be choosing 1 or 2 items, okay, whatever you prefer. Now what you're trying to do here is on-demand self-service. Now split those words into two. On-demand. Okay. So what you want, okay, which your hotel, restaurant is providing you, you will demand out of those items, but not out of, not, something out of whatever items. Let's say a hotel provides you idli and dosa. Now you can't ask him, I want, puri, right? So I want coffee. No, you can't get it. Okay, whatever that particular restaurant is providing in those items, you can ask anything, but you can't ask beyond that. Okay, so that is one thing, on demand. Now what is self service? Now in the same example, let's say you have in the same restaurant, saying sometimes you have self service. Okay, so you don't expect waiter to come and serve you whatever you have ordered, right? So you would be having a kind of token, right? So whatever items you have asked, okay, so you have a token for the bill whatever you have paid, and you will wait in the queue if there is a queue. If there is no one and you're the first person to go to that restaurant, okay, so you would be given first preference, right? So self-service is nothing but they will make you, or they'll prepare that particular food item, and they expect you to take. Okay, they don't expect themselves to serve you. Okay, that is self-service. So you are going to wait at the counter, okay, and show them the receipt saying like the bill has been paid, okay, and whatever items you have ordered, okay, the cook would prepare those and they would give you, okay, and they won't give you to the table where you're sitting, okay. You need to go to that particular cook, okay, like you have a self-service boards, right? So it's pretty much straightforward, right? So in a similar sense, in technical terminology, okay, on demand self-services, let's say for example AWS provides you 10 services, and out of those 10 services you can use any of the service, you don't have restriction for, but you can't expect something, okay, out of those 10 services to be served. Let's say you want, let's say AWS serves RDS, okay, and it doesn't serve security, for example. I'm just giving a common example, it's not true, but just to make sure you understand. AWS gives you a database service, okay, now it doesn't give you security, okay, for example. Now you can't ask AWS to give security because it's not in their scope, okay. You can only ask database, okay, but you can't ask security. I've just given a common example to understand, okay, but that is not true, okay. Security is definitely there, but just to make sure you understand what is this on demand self service, I've given that example, okay. Now the second example is broad network access. Now again I'll interlink this example with the restaurant example. Now let's say maybe most of you people are from Hyderabad or maybe from India, right? So I'll take example of Hyderabad. Okay. So in Hyderabad, you have Amirpet, right? And you have Gachibowli, right? You have Miapur, right? So let's say you have restaurant called A, okay, in Amirpet, okay. And if restaurant A wants to expand their business, okay, to see the profits, right? So what they would try to do is they would establish multiple branches of their restaurant. Okay, one is in Gachibowli, one is in Miapur, one should be in Chandanagar, one can be in Uppal, right? So they would be establishing their multiple branches in multiple places so that it would be reachable for people, okay, for their common users or for their end users, right? So what it happens is if you expand your business by establishing multiple branches, so your business will grow in terms of profit, but still it purely depends on the quality of what food items you're trying to provide, right? Ultimately it is your quality only, but if you want to grow your business you need to expand your branches, right? So in a similar fashion, coming to technical wise, the meaning of broad network access is you can able to see multiple data centers, okay. So data centers could be a new term. Data center is nothing but a huge building, okay, which is being accessed only by few, okay. Whoever are authorized to access, they would be accessing that particular building, and inside that building you have hell lot of servers, okay. So you have n number of servers, I could say it could be lakhs of servers residing in that building, okay. So where it can provide access. Now let's say in Amirpet you have one data center, okay. Let's say company A has established a data center in Amirpet. Now they wanted to expand their business to Gachibowli. Now again in Gachibowli they will establish one more data center or one more company. Now, okay, the same company with a different branch, right? For example, let's say you have TCS, okay. So TCS in Hyderabad are there in multiple locations, okay. So one of the major is in Gachibowli and other one is in High Tech City, right? So you have multiple places, okay, where it could able to expand its horizon. Now, if you take the same IT example, software example called TCS, so in Hyderabad you have 5 TCS offices, maybe in Bangalore you have 10 TCS offices, right? So it is trying to serve different customers at different locations, okay. So it is expanding its network. So in a similar fashion, the same interlink example can be done for here as well, okay. Broad network access is nothing but you're trying to expand your network, okay. So the other one is resource pooling. So this one is little different to that restaurant example. Resource pooling is nothing but, let's say you are in a IT company and you are a HR, okay. Now you went to a engineering college to hire freshers, okay. Now you have hired almost like 50 freshers, for example, from that college. Now those 50 freshers, okay, will be distributed, okay, for different technical areas. Maybe 10 persons can be for testing, 10 persons can be for database, 10 persons can be for cloud, right? 10 persons can be for Java or .NET, right? So in a similar way, if you see whatever number of people you hire from campus, right, you're trying to hire them to your company and you're trying to distribute them across multiple areas of technology. It is not like all the 50 members will be in sorry, all the 50 members will be in one domain. Maybe it could be in testing. No, if that's the plan, okay, you need to hire you need to hire a more number of people. So more number of people is nothing but more number of investment in money is needed, right? If you are not having that investment, you will be hiring only few and you would be distributing across a multiple technical stacks. So that is what resource pooling is all about. You can use those resources to multiple purposes. Okay, it is not only sticking for one. For example, let's say I've been hired as a fresher. Now it is company's decision either to keep me in testing, either they can keep me in cloud, or they can keep me in uh, you know .NET or Java. Okay, so I can't demand them. Okay, like that I want to be in this area. Maybe after few years of experience, you can able to demand them, but currently as a fresher, you can't demand them. It is their decision to make sure like to which technical stack you belong to. Okay, so for example, for next first 5 months, I can be in testing, and next 5 months, company has decided that I need to move to programming side. Okay, so it is purely company's decision to hire me and to make sure like whenever there is a need, okay, so I can be going into that particular technical stack, right? So that is what resource pooling is all about. You're trying to pool n number of resources and you're trying to distribute them, right? So the other one is rapid elasticity. Now what do you mean by rapid elasticity? See, rapid elasticity is nothing but whenever there is a huge demand, okay, of infrastructure, okay, so that particular infrastructure can be increased, okay, at any point of time, 24/7, within 24/7, 365 days, you could able to increase the infrastructure. Okay, but at the same time, if you want to decrease the infrastructure, you can even decrease it. Okay, so that is what you get a flexibility. Okay, and it should have that flexibility. Whenever someone says like I'm a cloud provider, okay, like AWS, GCP or Oracle, right? So they should have the flexibility to make sure whenever there is an increase in demand, okay, where your application requires your infrastructure support, the infrastructure should be increased. Now if demand is very less, there is no point keeping higher infrastructure. You can decrease the infrastructure, okay, making sure there is no application impact in performance. Okay, so that is what rapid elasticity is all about. The other one is measured service. Now measured service is nothing but, let's say, I'll give you an example of the restaurant only. Okay, let's say you have ordered dosa. Okay, now after you finish up eating dosa, do you expect the restaurant to give you bill of idli as well? No, right? It is only dosa what you have consumed, and for that is what you're going to pay bill for, right? So you're not going to pay extra, okay, for which you haven't consumed, right? Now, the similar technical example is, let's say you have used out of 10 services, you have used two services. Now, you will not be charged for all the 10 services. Okay, since you have only used two services out of 10, okay, so only for those two services you will be charged. So rest of 8 services you will not be charged. That's a model, okay, or that's a rule. So that is what essential characteristics is all about. Okay, so any queries here? You have any queries with any of these characteristics? If not, I'll move to the next one. Okay, so I'll take your silence as no, and I'll move to the next one. Okay, now Why cloud computing? Maybe I can cover this up later, but just a kind of just like why cloud computing is required. See, one of the primary reason is it is very difficult for a company to manage its own data center or its own servers. Okay, so they don't want to invest more on the physical servers rather than that they want to invest more on their development part, right? So rather than maintaining the hardware side of it, so what people are trying to do is they are trying to move everything to cloud. Okay, so that they can invest, okay, their amount, their energy, and their efficiency in developing products rather than bothering about hardware infrastructure. Okay, so that is one primary reason why cloud computing should be opted. Okay, so hardware maintenance is 0% from a company, where vendors like AWS, Azure, or GCP will take care of your infrastructure. Okay, I've just given us a layman example, okay, which is one of the main criteria. Okay, and these are the other few criteria as well. If you, for example, let's say you have infrastructure which is managed by some cloud vendor. Now you are not going to manage your hardware. Now that indicates like you are reducing the cost, because you are, since you're not investing on your hardware. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, like the reduction of cost, right? So, what happens ultimately is if you are not managing your infrastructure or your hardware, right? So that indicates automatically you're trying to reduce the cost on your hardware. Now, universal access is nothing but, let's say I reside in Hyderabad, you reside in Bangalore, and some other folks resides in maybe in US or Australia or Canada, right? So what happens is, using any cloud vendor, it is accessible all around the globe. The only thing required is you need to have internet. That's it. Okay. So any cloud vendor, okay, should able to provide you universal access, so that from any standpoint, let's say currently I'm in Hyderabad, now tomorrow I might be moving to Bangalore, right? Or maybe day after tomorrow I move to Delhi, right? So wherever I'm physically located, geographically located, it doesn't really should matter to any cloud vendor. All it wanted is whenever I log into my console, it should able to log in. And that's a kind of a universal access. Okay. Now, up-to-date software. Now, up-to-date software is nothing but day to day there would be new softwares coming up in the market, or new versions of software will be released in the market, right? Now, it is cloud computing responsibility or cloud vendors responsibility to make sure the softwares are getting updated. Okay, it could be automatically updated by them, or else it could be manually updated. But most of the cases, 98% of the cases, it is automatically updated. Okay, from cloud side. It is not we who is taking responsibility, it is from cloud side. Okay, so choice of applications. Now choice of applications could be various choices, where if someone wants to spin up a database, you have that choice of application. If someone wants to spin up a load balancer, okay, so don't get really stressed about these terminologies if you are pretty much new, or if you are from non-IT. Okay, so I can able to explain you, okay, once you dig deep into the course, but I'm just giving a layman terminology. Okay, so if someone wants to access how can I say is machines, okay, virtual machines, right? So they could able to access. So you get a lot of choices, okay, where you can choose from. Okay, so that is what choice of application is all about, right? Now the next one is something with respect to climatic change, okay, where potential to be greener and more economical, in the sense, let's say you have less of data centers. That indicates like your greenery is not being abandoned. Okay, so for establishing a data center, you should have a huge space, a huge land. Okay, maybe if you want to establish a data center, okay, let's say there are two companies, okay, and one company has 1,000 data centers, and the other company has 1 lakh data centers. Okay, now if you imagine 1 lakh data centers, it indicates like 1 lakh, almost near to each data center, at least to least minimum, they required at least 100 acres of land, okay, which is a very big space. And where instead of that 100 acres of land, okay, you could able to grow some trees, okay, which ultimately will give you greenery, or and reduce air pollution or the climatic changes, whatever you're seeing nowadays, right? So it has that potential, okay, using this cloud computing, because where one cloud vendor can manage all the 1 lakh data centers within 1,000 data centers, so almost like 99,000 data centers or 99,000 data centers are being saved. That indicates indirectly 99,000 areas are being saved, right? So that's how you need to understand this particular example from climatic standpoint. Okay, so the other one is flexibility. As I've said, flexibility, you get a flexibility of leveraging n number of services, okay, whatever a cloud vendor provides, and as well as at any point of time you want to be dropping off from that particular account, you have that flexibility as well. You can log in whenever you want, you can log off whenever you want, or if you want to shut down your complete account, you can do it as well. Okay, so there is no restriction at all. Okay, now that these are the primary reasons what NIST has defined, like why someone should opt for cloud computing. Okay, now benefits are pretty much straightforward. It is interlinked to what cloud computing is all about. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll try to make sure you understand the service models and the deployment model. Just give me a second, I'll reshare my screen and I'll show you a pictorial representation of these service models. Okay, where are these? Okay, just give me a second, I'll reshare. Okay, hope I think you can see the screen. Okay, so these are the three service models what I was talking about. Okay, so infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. These are the shortcuts. Okay, IA stands for infrastructure. I stands for infrastructure. Okay, as a service. P stands for platform, okay, which we call it as PaaS. Okay, S stands for software as a service, which we call it as SaaS. Okay, but before you understand these service models, you need to understand what exactly is happening or why these service models have been derived. So generally, whenever a company called TCS is been managing its own data center, so right from networking layer to application layer, someone should manage it. Okay, someone in the sense, at networking layer you need to hire like 100 employees, storage layer you need to hire 100 employees, servers layer you need to hire 100 employees. So similarly, from this networking layer to application layer, you need to hire almost all the persons at different specialist level, and you need to maintain them. Maintaining in the sense, you need to pay salaries to them and they could able to maintain the data center. But at the same time, okay, if you go with cloud, right? So if you see in infrastructure as a service, where networking to virtualization layer, right? So it is being managed by your cloud. So you're not going to manage this. Okay, you can leave that behind to your cloud. But from operating system to application layer, that's where the company what you work for should manage it. Okay, let's say a project has been taken where you have chosen AWS as your vendor, right? Now, if you are going with infrastructure as a service model, right? So you are not being responsible of managing networking layer to virtualization layer. Okay, you are only going to manage from operating system to applications layer. Okay, so from operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and applications, these are layers you need to manage. Okay, but networking layer to virtualization layer, it is these cloud vendors who would be managing it for you. Okay, so similarly, if that kind of particular model is being followed, right, it is called infrastructure as a service, because networking to virtualization layer mainly falls under infrastructure. Okay, now coming to platform as a service. Now in platform as a service, there is a small change. It is just a change of who is managing what layers. Okay, now from green, whatever you see in green, right, so everything is being managed by a cloud vendor. It could be any cloud vendor. I'm not talking about AWS. It could be GCP, it could be Azure, it could be Oracle Cloud, right? The only thing is that that particular model is what that cloud vendor should, have access to or should implement. That's it. Okay, so in platform as service, application layer and data layer should be managed by us. Rest of the layers are being managed by your cloud vendor. Now in software as a service model, everything is being managed by your cloud. Nothing is being managed by you. So for example, okay, if you want real-time examples, right, I'll come from a software as a service model to infrastructure as a service model. Let's say, for example, a software called Office 365. I believe most of you people are aware of this Office 365, right? So Office 365 is a Microsoft product, okay, or it's a kind of software where you have Excel, you have PowerPoint, you have whatnot, you have everything, you have Outlook, right? So it's a kind of package, a complete software. Now that particular model, if someone wants to manage, that falls under software as a service model. Okay, for example, your Facebook is a software, your YouTube is a software, right? Or your LinkedIn is a software, your Twitter, your Instagram, everything is a software, right? So at the back end, okay, so end to end, a cloud vendor can provide. Okay, but ultimately you're trying to develop an application and just put it in the cloud. That's it. So rest of end to end, a cloud vendor manages. That kind of model is called software as a service model. Now platform as a service model is something little different when compared to software as a service model. In platform as a service model, you have examples of Azure. Okay, so for Azure, okay, what you can assume is Azure has a I'm talking about purely on cloud. Okay, so Azure has a kind of platform. Okay, so I'm not sure if you have heard of this terminology called .NET frameworks. Okay, or maybe Visual Studios. I'm not sure if you have really heard of these or not. So all those are falling under platform as service. Okay, because data and application, whatever you need to manage, you need to manage. Okay, but the software, whatever Azure provides in cloud, okay, it would be managed by your cloud vendor, okay, by Azure. Okay, now coming to infrastructure as a service model, it is where Amazon's strength lies. Okay, so Amazon is very strong in infrastructure as a service model. They have virtual service, they have databases services, right? They have security services. So all the infrastructure related things, Amazon is managing. So infrastructure as a service model is where Amazon Web Services can be taken as an example. Okay, so these are the three service models what cloud computing has defined, and it's not really mandatory like one cloud vendor should manage this one. It could be n number of cloud vendors can fall under any of these service models. It could be let's say Azure, Google, or maybe Amazon. They can fall under infrastructure as service model. All it matters is what services are there giving to end users, and those services falls under which category. That's it. Okay, if you understand this particular statement of what services are being categorized in which service models, okay, so that makes your life easier to understand the service whatever you're trying to use falls under which category. Okay, now if you ask me about AWS, right, so AWS has software as a service. Okay, it has simple email service. Okay, so simple email service is purely a kind of software where email integrations can happen. Okay, so it's a product, it's a software what AWS has designed. okay, as a service for you. So that particular service falls under software as a service model. Now, platform as a service model, your load balancer or your maybe not a load balancer, maybe load balancer can be more of infrastructure, but your monitoring, okay, so your monitoring tools whatever AWS provides, those can be categorized in platform as service, because for monitoring network to runtime everything they would manage, but what kind of applications need to be monitored, that you need to decide, right? So that's the good example for PaaS. Now coming to infrastructure, your databases, your load balancers, or your virtual machines, right? So everything falls under your infrastructure. Okay, so these are this service models what NIST has defined. Okay, now the other last one is your deployment models. So deployment models are four. You have I'm sorry. Yeah, so you have a hybrid model, okay, you have a public model, okay, I mean to say deployment model, okay, you have public, you have private, you have community, and you have hybrid model. Now public model, what do you mean by public deployment model? So just simply understand whatever cloud vendors are there, for example AWS, GCP, Oracle, right, or now maybe yeah, these are the three, maybe IBM cloud for example, right? So all these are public facing, so they are giving their services to public. Okay, so this kind of deployment model can be called as public cloud. Okay, so public cloud is nothing but they are giving services to any user. Okay, it doesn't really matter you're sitting in a company, if you are a student, you are a businessman, it doesn't really matter to them, right? All they are providing is services, so that kind of model falls in the public. Now coming to private model, private model, the name itself indicates it is private to someone only. Okay, they can't give services to public. For example, Dell, right? Say Dell cloud, or maybe HP cloud, right? So these are only purely for an organization. They can't really give their services to public. They can only give services, okay, within themselves. Okay, maybe for example, they can host their HR applications. They can post their deploy their particular application models into their particular cloud, right? So it is only purely with respect to one organization where they can internally use. They are not being exposed to public. Okay, so that is private model. Now coming to community model, let's say I have a company, you all have your individual companies. Now uh, I wanted to save the cost, and even you want to save your cost. Now for that, okay, we can collaboratively use only one cloud, okay, where I would be having my own space in the cloud, you would be having your individual spaces in cloud. The only concern over here is security, okay, because in community model, okay, you need to compromise on your security. The reason is, I for my application, for my company, I have some certain security policies which might have a conflict with your applications. Okay, so in the similar way, you might have your security policies where it can it can act as a conflict to my applications. Okay, so at security wise, okay, understanding and going in a same set of standards is what you need to adjust for. Okay, so community model is very lessly used. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'm not sure if this is the right example for you or not. Okay, but just to make sure you understand what community model is, let's say you have Sri Chaitanya College, right? So Sri Chaitanya College, okay, or maybe IIT colleges, anything, okay, but still it should come under a simple organization. Like Sri Chaitanya College is the best example to give you an understanding. So Sri Chaitanya College is been running by only one maybe one owner, or maybe two to three owners, I don't really remember, but only one is the point of contact. So Sri Chaitanya colleges will run in the same manner across all the maybe Andhra Pradesh or Hyderabad or Telangana, whatever it is, right? So wherever Sri Chaitanya is there, it would follow the same model. Okay, now if they wanted to manage their own cloud, okay, for example, let's say Narayana College comes. Okay, and even Narayana College will have their own set of rules. Okay, but the model is one and the same. Okay, so Sri Chaitanya College has +1 +2, Narayana College have +1 +2. It is only their particular teaching methodologies which differs, but every Sri Chaitanya College writes inter exams, your Narayana College students writes inter exams. They would be taking IIT coaching, MSET coachings, right, or AIEEE coaching. So everything is one and the same. But the only thing is that Sri Chaitanya has different study mechanism and Narayana has different study mechanism. Now, if they both want to collaborate and keep up a simple model, so collaborating and keeping a simple model, okay, can come at as a community model. Okay, but taking into consideration Narayana should oblige the Sri Chaitanya rules, and at the same way, Sri Chaitanya needs to oblige the Narayana rules. Okay, so that kind of compromise should be made. If that compromise is not made, then definitely community model is not worth to go for. And I honestly experienced that one, where in the world almost like only 0.5% of applications are in community model, just to make sure the costs are being saved. That's the only purpose. They don't really care about their security, right? So that's the biggest flaw I personally see in community model. Now the other one is hybrid model. Now hybrid model is pretty simple. If you have a combination of public plus private, okay, or if you have a combination of private plus community, okay, or if you have a combination of public plus community, or combination of all the three models, gives you hybrid model. So two or more models, if you compromise, if you combine, that's your hybrid model. So there is nothing pure rocket science in that. It is just an example where you need to understand, if you mix two models, okay, it could be any combination. I'm not giving like only these combinations are working. It could be any combination. It could be public plus private, or it could be public plus community, or it could be private plus community, or else it could be public plus private plus community. It could be these. Okay, so these permutations and combinations, right, so forms your model called as your hybrid model. Okay, and best example to give your hybrid model is Salesforce. Okay, the reason why I'm saying Salesforce is the best example is Salesforce have their internal cloud, and even Salesforce are exposed to public as well. Okay, so I'm not sure if you have worked in Salesforce platform or a Salesforce company, but they have a model called as their internal cloud, which only their organization uses, and they expose a few of the services, okay, to end users. Okay, so Salesforce is a very good example to understand this hybrid model. Okay, so these are the deployment models. Okay, so taking this into consideration, and even the time, okay, so this is what a small demo on what you need to understand if you're going for cloud. Okay, now these are the basic, very very kind of a basic definitions of what you need to understand. Okay, now I'll give a pause here. Okay, and if you have any queries with respect to the course, or any sort of queries you have, okay, so you can ask me. Okay, so we have almost like 7 minutes of time, and these 7 minutes you can post any queries you have. Okay, and one thing about this course is there is no coding required for it, because whatever you're trying to do, it is purely on console basis. But all I request you is to understand the technical concepts, which anyway I would be dealing with, but only those technical foundation concepts, if you understand from AWS perspective, it would be very easy for you to understand the end-to-end process. Okay, so what we would be doing overall this course is, we would be learning each and individual service as an individual service. Okay, if you want to learn 2 or 3 services at a time, it's not possible. Okay, so you'll understand one service at a time. Okay, so during this course, you will understand one service at one level, the other service at other level, right? But at the end of the day or end of the course, okay, you will be joining those dots. Okay, let's say service A is dot one, service two is dot two, and service three is dot three, right? So how do you interlink those dots is what at the end of the course you'll learn for sure. Okay, so how dot one would be going